Hello everyone, it's time for another trip down memory lane with your hosts, Short Round 551 and geebmachine, doing a little recap of the second season of Enterprising Engines. I hope you enjoy it.
Previously on Enterprising Engines, two new diesels, Paxton and Norman, arrive on the island of Sodor to help out. They are initially greeted by Ari and Bert, who have a twisted view about the role diesel engines have to play. The two diesels work well in the yards, and Paxton befriends Thomas. Norman, though very bright, is a bit of a follower and becomes very swept up in what Ari and Bert have said. When Norman overheats and discovers that he will be sent away, he forces Paxton to stage an accident for Percy so he can stay on the island. Paxton eventually abandons the plan, only to realize he had confused a crucial component. Heroically, Paxton stops Percy's runaway trucks and makes everything right in the end. He vouches for Norman, and the two diesels acclimate well.
The Fat Controller speaks to Gordon about an engine from the old days arriving to take on a very special task. The engine returns to the island only to find he has been suspiciously diverted to the scrapyard by mistake. The grim messengers of doom deceive the engine and his crew with the help of some shady hired guns, and the dark force behind everything is revealed at last. Afterwards, the Fat Controller's search for the missing visitor runs cold.
Butch, the breakdown vehicle, ironically breaks down, and no one around him proves to be very helpful. After finally being rescued, his driver reminds him that although his friends were not helpful, most seem to enjoy his company, and that a little laughter may be the best medicine for a day gone sour.
Mighty Mac, the double Farley engine, is constantly arguing and bickering with all the usual confusion and delay stuff, and swear they would be better off without one another. However, when Mighty breaks down, the Thin Controller reminds them that the only way they can work is if two hearts burn together. The two make amends and realise just how important they are to one another.
Dim-witted pigeon hunters Dex and Winslow accidentally open fire on Mighty Mac's train and burst a few valves. They are arrested, and the Thin Controller sends Rusty to put up no hunting signs along the line to ensure it never happens again. Later, Ivohue chats up Spitzer, the crane at Ember Gorge, who loves to admire the sky, who is loading up some fireworks for a special celebration at the end of the summer. Another set of hunters ignore the newly placed signs and send Ivohue's fireworks sky high, which lights up a dazzling display for Spitzer far away. The hunters are placed into custody by some of the Thin Controller's buddies, and Spitzer, believing Ivohue had put up the light show for him on purpose, gives him high praise.
Isabella is fed up with Max and Monty's reckless behaviour, but Kelly reassures her that in their comeuppance will be serendipitous. Serendipitous, that's a new one. Anyways, when Max and Monty have an accident, insult is added to injury when Isabella's tool delivery is also compromised.
Gordon, feeling high and mighty, insults Murdoch about being a goods engine. Murdoch is crosser still when he is subjected to Bill and Ben's jokes at Brenda, as well as when he receives word the Flying Scotsman is visiting the island as a reward for Gordon's hard work, as well as for a special purpose. An idea for retaliation flies into Murdoch's funnel, and he feigns ill, causing Gordon to be humiliated while having to pull Murdoch's trucks. During this time, Scruff catches the eye of the famous engine. In the end, Murdoch gets his own back and even wins Bill and Ben's respect as a practical joker.
Boko is dispatched to deliver supplies to the Little Western Extension, where he meets up with Mavis and Scruff. As predicted by Duke, things take a turn for the worse when an incredible wind and rainstorm sweeps the island. The Fat Controller sends Hero to warn the engines along the main line of the impending disaster, a raging tornado. And Murdoch, Harold and Skarloey do their best to make sure all the engines are safe. Mavis and Boko then defy their orders and look for a missing Scruff, who has been marooned on the extension line in a collapsed shed. On the run from certain doom, Boko then tries to launch Scruff and Mavis over a damaged bridge spanning the valley of Arsdale to save them, but he derails Mavis in the process. Neither Scruff nor Boko can rescue Mavis before the bridge falls fully and is engulfed in flames. When the storm passes, Mavis is presumed dead, until Oliver meets Boko and Mavis's voice is faintly heard in the wreckage. In the end, Mavis's desire to save Scruff was deemed worth the trouble. After Rosie loses a milk tanker and brake van to a waterfall in a daring rescue, she's afraid she will never be as great as Thomas. However, with some helpful encouragement from Daisy, Lady, the narrow gauge engines and Hank, she realises that the best way to prove her own self-worth is not to compare herself to others, but to embrace what is special about herself. In the end, she saves Rusty from a collapsing steel bridge and makes a lasting friendship with Hank. Aww.
Molly the yellow engine is very meek and shy, but she rises to the occasion when Rheneas tells her about a problematic engine. Young Tucker, numbered 13, is constantly causing trouble to the point where all the engines believe he is jinxed. Molly tries to cheer him up and takes the trucks Tucker had shunted to prove all the chatter is merely superstition. Unfortunately, her trucks push her down the hill and Molly races tender first through the wharf and careens into the water. Tucker comes to the rescue, and while still believing he was the cause of the accident, he is grateful to have a friend in Molly.
Stanley collects some ballast from Islesborough and listens to Mike's story about his lost whistle. He is then given the task of exploring the abandoned Great Waterton Waterworks. Upon arrival, the old floors creak and he and his crew end up falling through the floor. An aqueduct breaks, causing the area to fill with water. Oh, the humanity! Quite luckily, and coincidentally, Stanley remembers Mike's story and uses his remaining steam to fire his whistle like a projectile to secure a rope and save his crew from drowning. By the way, I love this episode, you should totally watch it.
Before a celebration for a hard summer's work, Sir Handel is sent to work at the quarry. Griping endlessly, he does not notice that the old iron bridge had collapsed behind him. The engines enjoy the festivities without Sir Handel's negativity. And, during a moment of silence, they hear a ghostly whistle. Since they are all accounted for, the Thing Controller, Rheneas, Skarloey, and Duncan set out into the night to find the owner. Proteus, the ghost engine, plays tricks on the engines and messes with the points, causing Rheneas to derail. Skarloey, determined to press on, continues the journey alone and sees Proteus appear right before his eyes. Proteus leads Skarloey to the old iron bridge and disappears. It soon becomes clear that Proteus was really trying to warn the engines about the pressing danger. None the worse for their adventure, Skarloey and his crew decide to keep the phantom escapade to themselves.
James's fireman takes ill and a doctor accidentally drops some psychoactive compounds into his firebox. Complete and utter disorientation and out-of-boiler experiences ensue. You know, the usual Sodor stuff then.
The Flying Scotsman is bringing a celebratory train of enthusiasts to photograph most of the engines at Tidmouth Sheds. Trouble then rears its ugly head when Bill and Ben cause an accident at a blasting site that blocks the main line. Harold goes for help, and an unlikely helper suggests the lackadaisical Sydney and Cool Man Thumper come to the rescue. The two arrive and work handily, but when the Flying Scotsman bursts his safety valve, it is Sydney who takes the special train and the Flying Scotsman to the gathering. Everyone is surprised and relieved, and the Flying Scotsman presents Scruff with his spare whistle as a gift. Percy is overworked and underappreciated, and the trucks are not improving his mood. Because of this, Percy lashes out at his friends who only want to help him see the bright side. Mistakenly, a visiting Flying Scotsman takes Percy's side when Henry calls him out. But after Percy gets pummeled by the troublesome trucks, the engines are now well aware of who was really in need of an attitude adjustment.
Bear, the High McDiesel, is fast, strong, and a team player. He values being part of a family and is more than happy to help a stranded Henry. Seeing that Fergus wants to help, Bear insists that the rescue has Fergus pushed from behind as a banker, perhaps a little too deceivingly. Fergus discovers that Bear didn't really need his help, and Bear realizes dishonesty is not the way to bring a family together.
And with that,
it's time to end.
Episodes 17 through 25 of Recap are on their way.
I heard EE93 got Gwyneth Paltrow and Daisy Ridley to do the next one.
What? That is not true.
Reference. Luckily no one was hurt?
Well, except like Patriots and everyone in munitions.
Oh, yeah. That's true. But at least we all took this time to grow as people.
Single tear once a year.
Single tear once a year. Goodbye. Oh, that's so fun. Bye-bye, Enterprising Engine 1993. I love you stuff. Bye.
Yar, I'm salty. That's another voice I can do. Yar.